Alright guys, just wanted to come on here and just like with the sword or replica cosplay and sword collection video I did, this is one I never thought I'd be doing this year, but thanks to the fact that I have the Retron 77, which is Hyperkin's HD replica or answer to the Atari 2600 for the modern era, I was able to acquire through Amazon several Atari games, some that I used to have back when I was a kid, that I am sure of. Now, do all of them work? Not exactly, unless you blow into them or clean them out with a Q-tip, then they might work. But yeah, I have a whole stack of these. Well, they're not big, but just enough to do a bit of a collection video for the time being. The collection might grow over time, but we'll see. But without further ado, let me show you these games. I know I've mentioned them when I did a package opening and all that in the past, and I think I may have showed them off a little bit beforehand, but this is mostly all of them that I have combined over the past month, a couple months since I've had the Retron 77. So the first one, I have to give a shout out to Chris Bors, the irate gamer, because when he did his history of video game series and he got to the Atari 2600, he talked about this one being one of the first games that they brought out that was sports related, called Video Olympics. And the only thing that is Olympic about this is the variations of Pong you get. That's right. This is basically Pong's greatest hits, but they gave it Video Olympics because it's different variations. It's actually, in a way, the first compilation of video game that contains all different variations of a game, of a franchise, which is Pong. So that's what Video Olympics is, and I had to get that. Again, shout out to Chris Bors about that. Then the other one I got, shout out to AVGN, and I think Chris has talked about this too, but shout out to AVGN, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And this does work. The thing is, just like James said when he did that review long ago, you have to actually put the controller in the second port to start it, and then put another one in the first controller to select items and stuff or whatever. But yeah, I got that, so big shout out to James Rolfe for inspiring me to get that. Then I have Defender. This is a classic Atari game. James has talked about it when he talked about some other games as well, and I think even Chris Bors talked about this in his history series, I should say. Oh, no, Defender. This is Asteroids, actually. Not this is Asteroids. Same color. But yeah, I'm sure I had this as a kid. And Chris, I should say, did talk about this in his history of video games, and I think even James mentioned it as well. But obviously had to get this because, hey, it's Asteroids, and as you probably saw in the recent video I did, it is basically a more upgraded Atari version of the classic game that started it all, if you will. And next up we have Popeye. These were by Parker Brothers, these cartridges. That's why they're shaped the way they are, to kind of distinguish them from regular Atari games, other Atari licensed games. Unfortunately, this does not work. I don't know why. I don't know if the pins or something are dirty, but it doesn't work. I've switched it on and off. It just doesn't work. But maybe I'll get lucky one of these days and it will. I mean, let's see. I have Tailspin here on the TurboGrafx, and I thought it was busted. And when I adjusted it a little bit, after I got the level hike adaptation or level hike HDMI adapter for it, once I kind of maneuvered it a little bit, it worked. So maybe that's the same case here with Popeye, but right now it's not playable, but maybe down the line, God willing, it will be. But yeah, I got this because I watched some history of Popeye video games, as well as there was a video that James, Doug, and Andre did when they were at the Galloping Ghost arcade in Chicago, or in the Chicago area. And they mentioned this in there. And this was actually one of the first ports from the arcade. Next up we have Star Wars Jedi Arena. Big shout out to James Rolfe for this, because when he did his Star Wars video on the Star Wars games, he of course started, as he puts it innocently enough, with the Atari. And this is, and again, you actually have to blow in it a little bit, maneuver it a little bit, and it does work. It does work, and it's pretty fun. Well, it's not pretty fun. It's just it's basically a two-player game where you got to go back and forth with another opponent or something like that, or you got to set it to where it's you and the computer. And then, of course, again, James Rolfe. Big shout out to the guy. Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Just like Defender, like the one I mistaked Asteroids for, but it's just like Defender. And it's actually fun. You know, just got to put some time into it if you want to. The one thing about Atari games, depending on what kinds you had, they were just like simple, you know, go back and forth kind of deals, just restart stuff. Then we have Donkey Kong. This one does work. This is by Coleco, and this is for play, you know, for use with the Atari video game compatible system and Sears Video Arcade. So yeah, this was made not just for the Atari 2600, but for the Sears Video Arcade, which was another version of 2600. But yeah, it does work, and let's just put it this way. Chris Boers, Irate Gamer, you're right about it. This is not the way Donkey Kong's supposed to be represented, especially when you're trying to play it with the Atari stick. Then, of course, had to get the infamous E.T. And yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I know people have crapped on it a lot. Even James did in his review at the end of the movie, which he separated as a separate review on his channel. Said it's not that bad. I think it's just an urban legend because of the fact that this was done in such a short time. It caused a downfall for Atari. Or at least caused, was not only caused the downfall for Atari, but also caused a little bit of video game crash. Basically, it was like at the epicenter of it. Now this one is Dig Dug. Unfortunately, this is a 7800 one, but you would think it would work. It does not. It is basically a little too big. I was trying to get the 2600 one, but they gave me this one by mistake, I think, but that's okay, it's fine. I'm pretty sure Hyperkin might do another version of the Retron and call it the Retron 78 or Retron 80 or something. So keep that around. And of course, here we have Defender, the one I mistaked Asteroids for earlier, and the one that James made a comparison with when he was talking about Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and also Chris Boers, Irate Gamer, talked about in his history of video games series when he was talking about the Atari. This is one of the more popular games they did, and it's actually pretty fun. It's actually really fun. Again, it's just a simple task. Then we have Pole Position. I had to get this game because, you know, it's one of the more iconic ones they put out, and it's also spawned an animated series, and it does work. It does work, and it's just one of those games where you race and then you start over again, something like that. I think there's more like tracks, more levels, but I think you gotta get to a certain number. And then here, of course, had to get Superman. Both James and Chris talked about this. Chris mostly doing his history series and how this was the first licensed game on any console. That's pretty cool. Had to get that. And then, because this one appealed to me a little bit, and I think they talked about it on both ends, had to get Berserk. And it's a lot easier said than done. Let's just put it this way. You know how you have that diagonal, vertical, like down and up on Indiana and E.T.? Kind of thank that kind of thing, but you can kind of thank this for that, I should say. But yeah, that's about it for the Atari games, Atari collection I have so far. For my Retron 77. Really happy to be able to get back into it, if you will, get back into the Atari video game lore, if you will. And as a bit of a bonus, just to let you guys know, this is my first Sega one, and I'll potentially get some more Sega ones down the line. But for right now, that's about it for the Atari games. and for the Retron 77. I do recommend you picking them up, but make sure some of them work, or at least try to jiggle them around, see if they'll work right off the bat. So that's about it, guys. So talk to y'all later. Take care. God bless. I am out.